god, how swinging is that? If you want to improvise jazz on saxophone, the barrier for entry can seem quite high if you want to play bebop and hard bop. So, how do you do it? Well, one way is to buy one of the online courses that are available right now, like my improvisation mastery course, but the best way of augmenting that learning is to look at the actual people who did it best and learn straight from them, which is why we are going to learn how to play hard bop from the one and only Hank Mobley today. Well, let's get straight into it. The solo we're going to look at today is The Best Things in Life Are Free from Hank Mobley's album Workout. It's kind of a similar chord sequence to Bye Bye Blackbird, so let's have a little listen to the last 8 into the solo break. This solo is actually fully broken down in detail with all takeaways inside the Inner Circle membership as well. Here we go. Bam. Philly Joe's so good on that. Okay, straight in. What can we learn from the first solo break? Well, let's have a little look at it, shall we? This is perfect outlining of chords. That's what you can learn from this. So, first of all, we have A minor 7 here, which is going to D7 flat 9, which is going to G minor 7, which is going to C7. Now, if you want to play great hard bop, one of the most important things is a concept called voice leading. This is where the chord tones of one chord smoothly go to the chord tones of the next chord, and instead of sounding choppy and vertical, your solos have a lovely melodic flow, and it really sounds like you're making the changes. The most common way of doing this is to take the 7th of one chord and flip it to the 3rd of the next chord. So let's have a little look at Hankaroonie and see what he does here. So you can see that that is the 7th of A minor 7, okay? It's the flattened 7th of A minor 7, which goes to the 3rd of D7 flat 9. Then he goes right to the flat 9, down that beautiful scale, and there's a little kind of, people talk about enclosures a lot when you're talking about hard bop and bebop. This is what you might call a diatonic enclosure, because he is enclosing this chord tone, which is the 3rd of G minor 7, and he's enclosing it with 2 diatonic chord notes, because we're in the key of F here. So he goes C and A to surround the B flat. But there's another way of looking at this, because let's say that that note was just a delaying tactic, okay? You've actually got the 7th here of D7, which is still going to the 3rd of G minor 7. So you can see the voice leading is still beautifully intact there. Absolutely awesome. And then when he gets to this lovely C7 chord after going up this G minor 9, you could call that the 9th of G minor 7, the A at the top, or we can call that the 13th and the 5th of C7. But the main thing is, look, we've got a nice C triad. Talk about spelling out the chord changes. Be ba be boo ba, then resolving on the tonic. So this is what the break sounds like in slow-mo. We'll get right back to the video in 1 second, but if you want to get the PDF, a free PDF transcription of this solo, just use the link that you can see in the description there. It's yours. Help yourself. It's pretty accurate. I haven't marked in the phrasing, mind you, but then you're going to have to teach yourself how to do that. So use the link that you can see there and go and grab your free PDF cheat sheet for Hank Mobley's solo on The Best Things in Life Are Free. So if you play that, if you just play those notes, are you going to sound good playing hard bop, even if you knew that harmonic stuff? The answer is no. Why are you not going to sound good? Because of the P word, phrasing. Let's listen to Hank again. You can hear that all these great hard bop players have that light and shade in their phrasing. Not all the notes are played the same level. And you'll also note that the 8th notes aren't fully swung. So they're not going right, as you're sometimes taught in jazz school or whatever. So the 8th notes are straighter than you might expect, and there's a lot of subtlety and variation in jazz phrasing that you can only get from listening to great solos like this. So if I just played that at full level without any kind of phrasing whatsoever, it would sound like, but that's not how it sounds. And you get that light and shade from using half tonguing, which is where you rest your tongue on the reed. The reed still vibrates, but it kind of vibrates in a muffled way, which gives the, you know, like on guitar, you can mute the strings. It's a bit like that in saxophone with half tonguing. Sometimes you write this with crosses, sometimes you write this with brackets, sometimes you don't write it at all. Like, there's not a lot of phrasing marked in this chart. If you go to my Phrase Like a Pro course, that's where you learn all the deep dive stuff about phrasing. But there's sort of a convention when you're reading jazz transcriptions like this that you just got to kind of figure out the phrasing for yourself. You might have heard me mention this already, but we have big news on this channel. That is me hosting my first ever live event from January the 3rd to January the 5th, 2025 at the Royal Birmingham Conservatoire. It's called the Saxophone Success Formula Live. And it's going to be unlike any other live event you might have been to. We're going to take a journey through your saxophone sound from your breathing and your voicing and embouchure and all the ways that you can manipulate the sound to get a great tone, through to your technique and into improvising and how to practice. And it's going to set you up for your best ever 2025 on saxophone. I can promise you that much. We're in a super prestigious, beautiful, squillion quid new music conservatoire venue with all acoustically treated rooms. It is gorgeous. There's a bar in there. There's going to be jam sessions. There's going to be gigs. And there's a really cool hotel just opposite where we can have late night chats and you can pick my brains about anything you want. So all this is going to be happening very soon. So keep your eyes on your inbox. You're going to need to be on my mailing list to get the full details. So make sure you get one of my PDFs or one of those things and make sure you're on my mailing list, or just go to getyoursaxtogether.com and you can join my mailing list. Apart from anything else, you get awesome free lessons, so it's a good place to be. The first people who are going to get access to the tickets are in my inner circle, and the number of available slots are limited. So if you are not in my inner circle, don't think that it's, that you're going to be able to get tickets necessarily. So a good way forward is to join the inner circle right now, and then you will get those first dib tickets. Saxophone Success Formula Live coming up in January. Mark it in your diary, and full details will be winging their way to you. Okay, that's all done and dusted. Let's get back to the video. So let's go back to that break. Okay, so just simple F major. And you can see that bracketed note here on the C is a good example of a half tongue to note. D, D. So straightforward F major so far. This is just beautiful, this line. So he's using a sort of thematic idea. So basing the line around that top F, it's almost like, you might have heard of a bass pedal before where the bass just plays one note. This is like an inverted pedal where he takes that F and then he moves a guide tone underneath it. And the guide tone that he moves it's really kind of like a C to a C sharp to a D. And these things are called line cliches, which is another feature of hard bop. So in this case, the line cliche, although no, it's not really explicitly stated the whole time, but you've got the C there, then you've got the C sharp here, and then it goes to the D here. So this notion runs through the whole first segment of his solo. But you can hear the important melody moving underneath the inverted pedal. So here's another thing we can learn from great hard bop players. To play melodically, it's often a good idea to have a melodic idea or a motif and then develop it through your solo, which gives your solo a sense of cohesion and overall rise and fall and phrasing, and it stops you getting into too much of the just arpeggiating, okay? If you're running up and down arpeggios the whole time, and you can do that, but if you do it the whole time, your solo isn't as memorable as this solo would be. So, and you can hear him kind of murmuring those triplets with half tonguing. With that beautiful sound, that kind of lighter sound. It's not really in the sort of Sonny Rollins school. Hank Mobley's got a nice light sound. I love this. More of a sort of coming from the Lester Young sort of school rather than Coleman Hawkins. All right. So swinging. Right. Here's another great tip for playing hard bop. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. Now, what am I talking about? Okay, I'm just going to delete some stuff up here for you and then point something out. So, if you look at bar, you can't really see the bar numbers, but it's actually bar 11 here. All right, boom, boom, boom. Bit of a parallel, a bit of an oblong. I don't know what that shape is. In fact, my OCD won't let me keep that. Okay, there you go, rectangle. If you look at that phrase and then you look at this, you'll see that they are, in fact, look, there's actually one more note which is the same as well. In fact, let's back it up even more. Because look, if we take this whole chunk, okay, there, boom, then bear with me, guys. Let's get rid of that. And then you look at this chunk, okay? Just like kind of trying to manipulate the tech here a bit. What do you notice? And of course, what you notice is they are exactly the same. In the break, and then in this section. So, the moral of the story is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you've got great licks that work, then you can use them all over the place. Actually, the bit which is identical starts from the F sharp there, doesn't it? That bit. So, if you've got some great licks that work, you'll find great players playing them all the time. And you don't listen to Hank Mobley and say to yourself, oh my God, all he ever does is just play the same licks all the time. You just think, oh my God, this is such awesome swinging hard bop. So get yourself a few things that work and then reapply them all over the place. So that's another thing we can learn from Hank Mobley and others. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Big point there. And of course, the reason that that works is, as we've already discussed, and we'll probably see a lot more, you've got the voice leading, you've got the 7th going to the 3rd, you've then got the 7th of the D7 kind of going to the 3rd, a little bit delayed there, okay? And stone the crows, what happens in the very next measure, but you've got exactly the same thing happening again. Like, do-ya ba ba dee do, ya ba ba dee do, da da da, sort of, do da, almost. You've got the same thing happening again and again. And you know what? That is just fine. In fact, it kind of gives your solo a really sort of, cohesive sound because you're doing the same sort of language all the time. If I suddenly started talking to you in French, it wouldn't sound very good, would it? Unless you're French, of course. Just a beautiful outlining the chords and phrasing. Here we go. Here we go. In fact, that phrase has got a beautiful rise and fall to it. So you can see it rises here. Look at the bridge. It's just a whole bridge structure that goes up and then down. Absolutely awesome phrasing. How good is that? It's so awesome. I love it. Okay, let me get rid of them. And on the G minor 7, it's just outlining the chords quite obviously. But But the rhythm and the swing and the phrasing and the half-tonguing and the way he uses triplets, that's the thing that really makes it pop. Right, let's keep going now and take it from here. Now there you go. How about that for a 2-5-1 lick? Now, why does this work? We're back to voice leading here. So you go up the arpeggio, and this is another classic voice leading trick. And the notes you want to look out for are the A. Okay, so you've got all these A's, which are going to G sharp, which are going to G. And you'll hear this all the time in classic hard bop over 2-5-1s. Now, what's going on? That A is the ninth, okay? So this is the guide tone line. You got the ninth to the sharp 5 of C7 to the ninth. Now, I mentioned already that sevenths go to thirds and thirds go to sevenths. And what you want to do is, at the bar line, you want to connect the seventh to the third or the third to the seventh as you hit that bar line, because that's going to sound like you're making the changes all the time. However, there are other guide tone lines, and one of those other guide tone lines is that you can have ninths going to fifths, going to ninths. Now, sometimes the ninth can be the root, but basically it's like 9-5-9, and you can flip them. So then you've got the sevenths and thirds flipping to sevenths and thirds, and you've got the fifths and the ninths flipping as you go along. And the secret to making this work is you pinpoint those notes. You connect them with chord tones and you let that guide tone follow its way through the melodic line. In this case, we've got the A going to the G sharp, going to the G. And you can see that it's delayed by 2 beats on this occasion. So he could have gone... But he delays it 2 beats just because it sounds cool. Ba, ba, couldn't be simpler, could it? Ninth to the root of the chord. Let's hear that one more time. And you can hear the nice vibrato that he puts on that G sharp. All right. So that covers another guide tone line, the ninths to the fifths type thing. Now, you will hear this bebop cliche all over the place if you start paying attention. Sonny Stitt does it a lot. Sonny Rollins does it a lot. Like you'll often hear Rollins or Sonny Stitt do things like... God, I still can't get this palm key E to be not sharp. That kind of thing. You hear it all the time. All right, let's move on and see what else we can learn from Hankaruni. Oh, how about that for phrasing? Just like the sort of smear into it. So this is a 2-5-1 to chord 4, okay? There's chord 4. And this is a 2, 5, well, I've called it 4, okay, but let's call it 1, and we just know that we've kind of modulated, all right? I've had this discussion before on this channel about how we notate that. Now, let's talk about another line cliche, another little bit of voice leading that you can do. See how this word voice leading keeps coming up. This time, we have got the C, okay, going to the B, going to the B flat, going to the A. C, B, B flat, A, just on the page. So this is another hard bop and bebop cliche that you can do. Which is a way of just adding that melodic element to your 2-5-1. Now, you might recognize it in licks that kind of go like this. Or maybe... you know, that kind of stuff. So this is what Hank Mobley's doing here. He's using that line cliche, which is going from the root of the minor 7 chord to the natural 7 to the flattened 7th, and then eventually, in a delayed way, you're getting to the A of F7, because that's, you know, that's the real note you're looking for. Now you're also getting the voice leading, going from the 7th of C minor 7 to the 3rd of F7. So more great voice leading, and it sounds like this. Let's hear Hank play it. Now I think what he does here on this scooped out D is to play a side D. So if you're playing hard bop tenor or alto for that matter, if you've got a D, sometimes it's good to use the palm key D without the octave key, because it gives it a more kind of hollow sound, and you're able to shape the note with phrasing much easier. And you can kind of hear on the next note, which we're going to come to just over the page, you can hear that the tone changes as he puts his fingers down for the other D. As you can see, this is an inspirational solo of the month, taken from the Inner Circle membership, where I go into a lot more detail with that and do a lot more breakdowns and takeaways. Right, so let's back up a little bit. So can you hear the tone change? Quite subtle, but definitely there. There's another wonderful 2-5-1 lick for you to plunder. Now, we've got a few family favourites in here. For example, we've already had this shape, haven't we? Boo doo boo ba ba, boo ba boo ba ba. I've had that several times so far. So Hank loves doing this, starting on the 9th and then going up the minor 9 arpeggio of the 2 chord. Ba boo doo doo dee. Then you've got these nice chromatic passing notes to join up the line. So you've got the F sharp. Now, that F sharp kind of alludes to that line that we were talking about before. Or it could just be, you know, a chromatic passing note. But it's got that lovely turn on it as well. So, here is another little family favourite that we've already seen. Ba ba beep boo ba. So that's the second time he's done that, at least, if not the third. I haven't checked my facts on that one, but it's definitely something he does. Oh my God, how swinging is that? And guess what? Most of it is just quarter notes, crotchets. But there's some interesting phrasing going on underneath the surface there. It's just so swinging. And of course, it's a beautiful sequence. Da 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 da. So melodic, it's so beautiful. And it outlines the chords. It's so great. Let's have a listen to that phrasing though. Sounds like he's kind of bouncing off notes with half tonguey underneath. Maybe not that explicit. Certainly that there's a little C in there somewhere. let's hear that final lick as well. Oh, it's so swinging. Okay, so let's look at the voice leading first. First of all, you've got this enclosure, right? Now, people talk about enclosures, and I've actually got a video, I'll try and link it in the description, my Mothership enclosures exercise, where I cover all the enclosures you're going to find in bebop. Now, in this case, Hank's doing a couple of chromatic notes underneath and a diatonic one above. So the target note in this case is this B flat, the chord tone, the third of G minor 7. And we do a couple of chromatic ones below, and I just said that. And these are just the things, you know, the video is called How to Learn Hard Bop from Hank Mobley. And this is why it's so important to learn from the great players, because you just sort of, you get to know these kind of phrases and how awesome they are. So, what's really going on here under the hood with the voice leading? Well, what's really going on is what I said before. You got the third of G minor going to the 7th of G minor 7 going to the third of C7. It's just that it's a little bit delayed. So this is another thing that happens. I mean, sometimes people will play the 2 chord, and we've seen Hank Mobley do this before. And he plays the 2 chord for longer, and then you just get a couple of beats on the dominant. Now, another thing to point out, in terms of the amount of recycling that's going on here, look. So, look at this chunk here. Oh, sorry, I thought I was in I thought I was in a different mode. Let's get the old boxing going on here, look. Anybody want to point out where that has come before? Right there. You see how all these things are just, he uses it again and again. Different stuff again and again. Straight down a major scale. Couldn't be simpler. Let's hear it again. It's so good. Honestly, I love this solo. Hard bop is just such a satisfying thing to listen to, isn't it? I love it. Okay, let's keep going, shall we? Okay, just throws in the blues scale. And that's right over a, you know, a major F major. So you can ignore that C7 chord symbol. It's nothing to do with it. It's just an F blues scale. Right. Now the next bit is brilliant. Check this out. So this is called a slip sliding 2-5-1. Straight major triad. So what he's implying there is that G sharp minor 7 to C sharp 7, slip sliding down to G minor 7, and what would normally be 7, but you know, it kind of goes on a bit, so the chords are different. So. And you can hear that the piano player, I think it might be Wynton Kelly, just catches it straight away. Check it out. Straight on it. Right, let's move the music up. And you can kind of hear that one going. Absolutely awesome. In fact, there's a few melodies that even do that, a few songs that do that. So, we're here now. And then you got the F sharp, you know, of this chord, which is the secondary dominant to G minor 7. So just a nice, fluid, hard bop line that. So using a few of the devices that we've already seen before going forward, let's just hear Hank play that. And you'll notice that whenever that D7 is there, what is he playing? He's playing an F sharp. D7 plays an F sharp. Let's find out if there's any other times where that happens. That's not really a D7, I don't think. Let's go to the other page. This is a D7, and he's playing an F sharp. Just quickly bombing through. D7, he's playing an F sharp. D7, he's playing an F sharp. And that's it for that page. So the point is, this is what making the changes sounds like. You know, this is what making the changes sounds like. When there's a secondary dominant chord with a note that's not in the F major scale, he's hitting it. So really kind of reassuringly making the changes. So we're around about here, aren't we? And these little turns and stuff are what really makes it swing. You could just go. The way that those turns are played is what makes it swing. Okay. Okay. Are there any who wants to go to the top of the class and point out what's going on with this line that we've already covered in the video so far? Okay. I'll put you out of your misery if you haven't got it by now. Remember I told you about that line? 9, sharp 5, 9. And there it is. Completely, you know, the same vibe as he did last time. Different, you know, different combination of notes to get there, but exactly the same idea and exactly the same melodic guide tone, okay? Oh, there's the cliche. We'll come to that in a minute. That's just a kind of bluesy thing, isn't it, on the F? So, let's hear that again. Right, so what's going on here, you might ask? Well, it's just fantastic hard bop language is what's going on. And guess what? Do you remember we talked about 9, sharp 5, 9? Well, if you just push this F7 over a bit, because, you know, we already mentioned he likes to delay chords a bit. Beep, beep, booba, dooba, booba, 9 of C minor 7. It's the 9th of C minor 7. Going to the sharp 5 of, what a mess. The sharp 5 of F7, all right? Now you might, then it's this great line, you know, going down, what you'd expect somewhere is a C, because that would be the 9th. But it doesn't really happen on this occasion. So, another version of 9 sharp 5 9. If you learn nothing else from this video, at least you've learned the old 9 sharp 5 to 9 trick on 251s. Here we go. Okay, now we're over to the final page. So he's just doing some B flat major stuff there, by the way. Interesting little use of the cheeky E natural at the end there, right? Okay, we're almost there. We're almost there in our hard bop lesson from Hank. Right. Why all the C sharps, you might be asking. Get that E in tune that time for once. Right. The C sharp is the sharpened 11th of G7. Now, why do we play the sharpened 11th on the G7? Because this G7 is called a secondary dominant. Why is it called a secondary dominant? Because it's the dominant of the key. Therefore, it's a secondary dominant. It's the dominant of C7. All right. C7 is the dominant, in other words, chord 5 of the key of F. What's the chord 5 of C? It's G. Now, whenever you have this secondary dominant thing, which happens all the time in standards, you typically use, not always, but you typically use a scale called the Lydian dominant, okay, which is a fancy word for a Mixolydian scale with a sharpened 11th. And actually the parent scale of the Lydian dominant for G7 is D melodic minor, okay? It's actually a D melodic minor scale starting on G. So here's D melodic minor. And in jazz, we're only concerned with the ascending version of the melodic minor. So if you're classical, don't start thinking about D minor going down with C's and B flats, okay? That's that's a whole nother topic. So if you start that D melodic minor on G, and the easiest way to remember it, if you want to be able to play cool licks on your Lydian dominant secondary dominants, is whenever you get to this chord, think about playing a D minor major 9, D minor major 9. I'll say that again, all right? So it's a D minor triad. Let's build it up. With a major 7, which is a C sharp, and a 9, which is an E. So if you think about that arpeggio, over your secondary dominant, you're going to sound pretty cool. That's what, I was going to say Frank Mobley. That's what Hank Mobley does. You know, it's actually that end of James Bond theme chord, you know, when the tremolo guitar just strums that. It's that chord. Right. Anyway, the reason that it works is because you have this pincer movement of the E and the C sharp converging together to the D of this chord. That's why the secondary dominant works. Okay. So, there's a bit of theory for you. It's all covered in improvisation mastery, all that stuff. Right, then we've got another little lick to round it out. Hang on. Now, it kind of sounds like there's some slip sliding going on here. It's really cool sort of outside lick there. So this is really a kind of what you might call a tritone substitution, where instead of the C7 we have, well, what do you want to call it? Let's kind of call it a G flat, shall we? G flat 7, which then goes to F, down a semitone. And the reason that tritone substitutions works, as some of you might know, is that the thirds and the sevenths of those two chords are the same. The seventh, the flat and seventh of C7 is B flat. The third of G flat 7 is B flat. The third of C7 is E. The flat and seventh of G flat 7 is E. F flat, whatever you want. Okay, so that's why this tritone sub works. Work out, you know, why it feels like there's quite a kind of A flatty type vibe here. So maybe it's kind of like maybe it's kind of that if you made that C a more like a B. I'm not saying to change history. It's kind of like that slip slidey type sound. But here's another lesson that we can learn from Hard Bop. Not everything just fits the grand scheme of things, you know. There's plenty of space just to play some things that you can't necessarily work out in theory, but they're just kind of vibes. So that little lick there is kind of like a vibe. It might just be that the whole thing is this F sharp 7, all right? Because whenever you do a tritone sub, you quite often use the sharp 11 Lydian dominant, just like you do with, you know, the other things. And that would be, if that was the case, even though it's all different spellings, you got the 13th there, you got the 5th there, you got the sharp 11 there, and you got the 9th of the chord there. All right, so that's probably more likely what it is, I'm guessing, actually. Right, let's move on to the final 8 and see what we got. Did you recognise that? That's one of the first things he plays in the whole solo. Remember that first idea? Except he just does a little variation of it, which is really cool. Okay, now, have we got any of our old friends? Yes, we have, because, look, we've seen this before. You know, the third flat 9 thing. We have seen this before. You know, the arpeggio thing. Oh, why didn't that fill in? Come on. Yes. No? Oh, well, who cares? We've seen that before. So once again, just recycling material, playing with great phrasing, using awesome voice leading, and, you know, just the language of Hard Bop. Oh! Right. Who recognises what just happened? Please tell me you recognise it, having watched this whole video. Okay, I'll put you out of your misery in case you haven't clocked it by now. 9, sharp 5 or flat 13, same thing. 9, 9, flat 13 or sharp 5, same deal. 9, okay? So, that's the, what, third or fourth time he's done that? Oh, I love this bit. What a great finish. So swinging, so beautiful, and what a great phrase to finish. By the way, we didn't talk about this bit yet because it's got a bunch of chromatic enclosures. All right, so chromatic passing G sharp. There's the 7th of G7, another chromatic. So it's kind of like, sounds like a pattern there, doesn't it? Almost like it's got the vibe of a kind of diminished pattern. Which sounds really cool. So that's what's going on there. Now what happens on this final, let's find out what happens on this final little monkfish. I don't know. Oh, my brain's gone trying to analyse it all. So that is some of the things that you can learn from studying hard bop from the actual records. Now, here's the interesting thing about that. I'm just going to flick back to my main camera because this is more like a kind of live video today, isn't it? The interesting thing is that the degree to which you can analyse that Hank Mobley solo, you can only analyse it to the degree of the knowledge you have. So it might be useful, unless you're just going to play completely by ear, which is cool as well. It might be useful to learn the theory of chord changes and hard bop. You can do that in my improvisation mastery course. Because then when you look at the solos, you spot the things straight away, and the mists part. Oh, choirs of angels sing, and you suddenly realise what's going on. But when you do these solos, and I urge you to try and transcribe them yourself if you can, make sure that you copy all the phrasing and articulation and the half-tonguing and the subtleties, because that is what's going to really give you that swing in time, that feel, that language. It's the only way that you're ever going to sound good playing hard bop, not just practicing PDFs and, you know, stuff that you see in jazz schools, and I teach that as much as the next person, but that is only, you know, a piece of the equation. You've got to go to the records, you've got to listen to them, and you've got to check them all out. Okay, you lovely lot, that's all I've got for you today. It's a hard bop week where we've just looked at how Hank plays and what you can learn from that and apply to your own playing. Make sure you check out Improvisation Mastery. Make sure you get your free PDF using the link that you can see there. Remember, one more time to mark in your diary, January the 3rd to the 5th, 2025 in Birmingham. And we've got people traveling from all over the world. It's going to be super cool. And until next week, make sure you practice hard, practice smart, and enjoy your music. Take it easy.